Welcome to an outside-in view on SAP Cloud ALM. My name is Tim Steuer, and I have the privilege to have with me Josh Greenbaum, Principal Enterprise Applications Consulting, and Mark Thier, who runs Application Lifecycle Management at SAP. Josh, everybody is talking about the cloud these days. Can you share with us what challenges our customers have with their cloud-centric solutions, especially with respect to implementation and operations?
Great, thank you. Thanks for the question. You know that obviously all implementations require close attention to on time, on budget, getting it right, easily, quickly, the first time, ideally. The cloud adds an additional layer of complexity, ironically, because what the cloud is really asking the customer to do is fit to standard, try to be as close to a standard implementation as possible. That's really the benefit, particularly of a public cloud, that you're running a relatively standard process across your enterprise. Fit to standard becomes complicated. Companies are used to doing tremendous amounts of customization. There's a lot of stakeholders involved in trying to get to the point where the processes that the company thought were very unique and value-added actually can be modified and or understood to be much more standard processes that are really best practices in the business, and the idea is to focus the implementation on bringing together the team to make sure that fit to standard is what works best for them. I think that's a particular complexity to the cloud that a lot of people don't anticipate and understand. With that fit to standard and that cloud process comes a whole real requirement, in particular, to get it right and get it right the first time. I think I like to say that in the cloud you can succeed and get to a successful implementation much faster, but you can also fail much faster too. So you need to have a closer attention to detail, in my opinion, and do a better job of managing the implementation so that it doesn't go off the rails and you don't turn into, take what should be a very relatively quick and easy process. Hopefully it doesn't become something that gets mired in complexity that shouldn't be there in the first place.
Thanks, Josh. What about operations? Is operations also a topic in the cloud?
Absolutely. And it's important and particularly in the era of digital transformation, which we are living in, with the additional complexity we have in front of us of an economy that's rather unforgiving and complex today. What's really essential is that you look at go live as just the beginning. That's really not the end at all. That's just the start of a continuous operational mode that's essential for the customer in order to really get the full value of what they're trying to do in the cloud. That sense of managing continuous operations gets even more complicated, if you will, because digital transformation is never done. You really want to, as a company, look at the processes, look at what you've implemented, look at the business challenges in front of you, and continually adapt and modify. That's one of the benefits of being in the cloud. That means that in addition to managing implementation in a different way, you want to manage continuous operations better and really more look at it as a life cycle operation as opposed to just something that we went live, let's eat the cake and blow out the candles and move on. It's no longer like that in the cloud.
Thank you very much, Josh. So, Mark, how do we at SAP address those customer challenges?
Tim, thanks for the question. With SAP Cloud ALM, we are exactly addressing the challenges that Josh was describing. With Cloud ALM, we are managing the application lifecycle end-to-end, from the implementation to the operation, for both the integrated scenarios that we are now providing as part of the intelligent enterprise, but also deeply implementing one product of SAP like SuccessFactors or S/4HANA Cloud. And the application's lifecycle experience for customers starts with designing the application. And that's exactly what Josh described. It's about starting with a best practice, not starting with an empty piece of paper, to accelerate the project right from the beginning by sticking to the standard as much as possible, and only deviate from it when it really provides value towards the business. From that design phase, we are then selecting the best practice processes that are really in scope and derive there all the configuration tasks that have to be done or the extensions that have to be done in the project. Again, accelerating and making sure that the project stays in time and budget also during the build phase. And a very typical cost challenge in projects is testing, end-to-end testing of the solution, both from the perspective of progression, but also regression. Josh mentioned the continuous updates that would happen, right? In the cloud, we are delivering innovation even faster than we ever did on premise. And specifically, test automation is an absolute need. I would say a must in the cloud, while it was perhaps only an option in on-premise, just to always test the customer-specific environment, the specific new feature sets in the customer-specific tenant. And we have entered a partnership with Tricentis, specifically on test automation and enterprise-scale test management, and we just announced that lately. I would like also to mention that after testing, we are managing then all the deployment processes, making sure that the production upgrades are happening consistently and we are not failing in production. And Josh was also mentioning, and Tim, you asked that question rightfully, what about operations? Is there still a need for customers to contribute also in operations, or is this just something that SAP needs to do? And indeed, there are tasks that the customers need to do in operating cloud solutions. And this is specific. This is not so much the technical pieces like the system management. It's more managing the business process, managing the integration of an integrated solution. And that's exactly what we provide with SAP Cloud ALM in what we call Cloud ALM for operations. And it even goes down not only to detect such anomalies automatically in terms of integration and business process, but also trying to resolve them with either totally automated operation flows or with workflows where business and IT can work together in a collaborative scenario to fix and remedy any issues that we might see in production. Yeah? So with that, we have a very complete solution covering implementation and operation of all SAP products with SAP Cloud ALM.
Thanks, Mark. So in a nutshell, in the cloud, the game is different, but there are still things to be done, both in implementation and operations with different focus areas. I think that's a very important message for all of our viewers. Let's take a look at how SAP has evolved over time. Traditionally, partners played a very important role in SAP's business in helping our customers to succeed. So Josh, how do you think about partners? What kind of challenges do we address for partners with cloud implementations?
I think the partners, will continue to be challenged by the requirement to deliver value on time, on budget, and to do a great job of it. Clearly, customer success is essential for both the partner and obviously for SAP. Partners have an additional challenge, as we spoke about earlier, with Fit to Standard. Fit to Standard really requires the partner to be there and help enforce the discipline of making sure that the processes are as standardized and best practice focused as possible. On the other hand, and this is a particular challenge for partners, they need to really be able to also add their own IP. There has to be their value add into the project as well. It's not just, we're no longer in the situation where we're just putting bodies into a data center and trying to get this stuff up and running. That's gone now. That's not what the cloud's all about. So for the partner's value add is really to bring specific intellectual property, specific methodology into the project and allow the customer to really derive the greatest value out of that. That means similarly to the customer, the partner also has to have the discipline and the ability to really manage the project in a very different way. They want, they want to be following again a project through the life cycle of it. So there's a change, if you will, from the partner mentality in terms of using tools like Cloud ALM to be a more effective, efficient partner. And literally the word is partner today. That has to start in these Fit to Standard workshops that the partners need to be helping the customer through to make sure that they've standardized the processes, particularly if they're doing a migration, all the way through to the continuous life cycle management on the operations side. I think one of the most important aspects of the cloud and Cloud ALM for partners is the ability to have a large amount of data at their fingertips, literally in the form of telemetry, in the form of operational information about the project at implementation through operations. And that really allows a differing and much higher level of quality to be provided by the partner to the customer. And this is really a win-win for both. The customer is able to really look at the partner as a true partner and work much more closely together because of this quantity of data that can be derived from the project. And the partner gets to differentiate on quality in ways that were never really possible before, and indeed are much easier to measure and much more reliable in terms of really defining the partner's added value in a project.
Mark, Josh just shared how important customers continue to be in the world of cloud. How does Cloud ALM help our partners to be successful?
Josh really made a very important point. Partners these days in the cloud need to consume best practice from SAP, but they also would like to be themselves. They want to bring in their own industry knowledge and share the combined IP of SAP and themselves with the customer in their project. And how are we supporting that from the SAP Cloud ALM side? Well, what the partner can actually do with SAP Cloud ALM, they can actually take all our best practice content, both the process content and the implementation task content, both the integration layer as well as the deep product content, and they can bring it into their own environment. They can extend the solution. They can also add implementation and operation content next to ours for the industry solutions that they added, and then finally deliver ALM in the project in exactly the same way as it would be an out-of-the-box implementation without any partner IP. So the trick is that you scale your delivery as a partner much better by applying the standard best practices, adding your own IP, but also using the ALM tooling and best practices for your implementation project. With that, you dramatically streamline as a partner the implementation. And to Josh's other points, accountability. What you get basically for free is all the out-of-the-box solution readiness dashboarding. We completely control all the ALM process and all the collaboration that happens between the parties in the project. And that gives us that understanding where we stand with the project via the solution readiness dashboard. So all this telemetry that Josh was talking about is completely at the fingertips of the customer and the partner to control and steer the project. So with that, I really believe that Cloud ALM will be embraced by partners as their standard delivery infrastructure that they use for all their implementations and for all their services that they deliver in operations for our products. And that must really be the goal, right? We would like to have a standard mechanism for implementation operation that not only customers enforce, but also partners would really like to embrace because it brings so much value to them.
Thank you, Mark. So in a nutshell, partners remain very important to customer success, and we give partners an opportunity to differentiate themselves and add value to customer projects. Josh, you also talked to some of our first customers. We've been live now with SAP Cloud ALM since the end of May. What are our customers telling you what they think and what they need from SAP Cloud ALM?
So, the customer feedback has been very, very positive because of, the timing. They were mostly focused on implementation. That's what was available to them at the time. And I think what's really interesting for me in speaking to your customers was how often they came back and said, what this is really helping me with is managing the complex documentation that actually goes into a big implementation. And it's something we tend to forget about. There's in addition to methodology and basics of how do you actually do it, there's a whole bunch of other information that has to be brought in and managed in order to make the implementation successful. That may be regulatory requirements, local, specific government or country requirements. A lot of that stuff that it's a configurable system. It's not meant to be customized, but there's a lot of configuration that goes on into the cloud, and that has a big chunk of documentation that goes with it. Managing that through, again, the life cycle of the implementation is a bonus that every customer I spoke to talked about. They really thought that was excellent. Another thing they really felt worked well for them was the ability to use Cloud ALM to manage the Fit to Standard workshop. Those workshops, again, I've been in a few of them in the old days. They were not always fun and not always smooth, to be very honest. But in Cloud ALM, that process is enabled literally within the software itself. So there's a huge benefit for companies who have to sit in these, literally bring their stakeholders together and say, let's work out what our process is going to look like in the cloud. Which ones are going to go fit to standard? Which ones maybe do we need to customize? Enabling that in Cloud ALM is a real positive. I think that, moving forward, they are really looking, the customers really are excited, every single one of them, about taking this into operations, which is now possible. And that again, they recognize that the telemetry, the information, the process, if you will, that is actually overlaid on an implementation really would benefit the operational side as well. So I think that's a real net positive. And, I think that, I guess the final, takeaway I heard from every customer is, I can't wait to get more of this for more of my SAP Cloud portfolio. They really are looking at this as a way to manage their lifecycle in the cloud with SAP across the entire SAP product line. And that, I think, is a really, really exciting opportunity for the customer and for the partners as well.
Thanks, Josh. Mark, I think we have a pretty extensive roadmap for SAP Cloud ALM. Can you share how our roadmap addresses the needs and what Josh just shared?
Absolutely, Tim. So Josh made a point on supporting all those products from SAP going forward. Let me share with you where we stand there. We started with SAP Cloud ALM as an implementation portal for S/4HANA Cloud. So we only supported the single cloud product. Since May this year, we are live on SAP Cloud ALM as a multi-cloud supporting product. So we are already supporting different cloud products and their integration, specifically from looking at the best practice processes, but also from the perspective of integration monitoring, for example. Looking into, let's say, a best practice process, how does hire to retire look like? Yeah? But then also monitoring that integration after it's set up. We know that we have to get better with the support for all our products, not only to support even the cloud products in each functions more sincerely, but also supporting on-prem solutions. Yeah, so that's a clear feedback we get from our customers. A lot of our customers are not just on cloud; they are going cloud on the one hand side, but they might also just stay in S4 specifically on-premise, and they would like to have one ALM solution that supports their cloud-centric solution, which would be then evolving to something like a hybrid cloud solution. Yeah, so hybrid is the new normal. And to that degree, we are absolutely excited that we will this year and going forward in implementation also next year support hybrid cloud. Now, this is a summary of the component coverage, yeah, of the intelligence suite. The other aspect of our cloud roadmap is just to get more mature in the capabilities and the functions. I would explicitly like to mention here a couple of highlights that we will throw out this year and next year on our 18th month roadmap, and that is specifically important to understand that with Cloud ALM we are delivering innovations every day. Yeah, so our development pipeline, believe it or not, in Cloud ALM is 24 hours. That's our innovation cycle. Yeah, so we're really living the cloud native promise as much as we can. Yeah. Innovation and new content goes out every day. Yeah, it doesn't mean that it's activated on your side because it's feature toggled and you might not see it, but it's in your cloud environment, and we do it for you. You don't need to do all that operations in Cloud ALM. So that's a big advantage, right? That this Cloud ALM solution is actually included in your enterprise support license, not just the functionality, but also the hyperscaler on which we run it and all the operations that we are doing for you, including all the maintenance. So that's really a very nice point in Cloud ALM. But let me add to the functionalities that I started to describe. One big block that we want to add is test automation, integrating third-party test automation providers, but also integrating the out-of-the-box Tricentis test automation, which we come up with together with our partner by the end of the year, completely integrated in SAP Cloud ALM. So how that would work is that we manage all the test management, the test preparation is done in Cloud ALM. We then hand over for test execution, including test data management, in Tricentis as a service, and we move the results back of that test runs in Cloud ALM so that we can still do the overall ALM and governance in SAP Cloud ALM. We will also add the notion of agile project management for the solution manager lovers, something like focus build in our SAP Cloud environment. We will add change and deployment management, both from a perspective of managing the process of change, but also integrating deployment providers to come to something like a cloud transport management system, totally integrated in Cloud ALM. On the operation side, the fireworks of new capabilities is just continuing. So we have a business service management capability that we would like to add. With that, you can actually take any service, monitor any service, and put it in the context of a business service that you model. You even don't need to have a solid solution documentation in place. That you can use it in business service management, but it's not an absolute enforcement. A big other lever that we put in place to lower the adoption hurdles that you might have seen in the past. We are adding user monitoring, both synthetical and real user monitoring, so that you can basically see how is your cloud solution performing from different parts of the region. And finally, I would like also to mention that we are also investing in the ALM extensibility itself. So this is about making sure that you can integrate third-party solutions from Cloud ALM. Let me make an example. You have a monitoring alert and you would like to consume that in ServiceNow IT Service Management solution. Such integrations would be possible going forward via extensibility and openness. So overall, I would say a very aggressive content and functional and feature timeline. And again, expect these, all what I explained now, expect that to be provided within the next 18 months, but not at the end of the 18 months, but as a continuous delivery that you will get from us.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks, Mark. That was really good information about feedback from the customers and also a pretty impressive, I must say, outlook on what is still to come. So would like to thank both of you for sharing feedback from the outside and Mark for taking us into the future. There's one more thing that I would like to add, which is important to all of you out there. There is no extra fee for SAP Cloud ALM. Cloud ALM is included in your subscription to the cloud service anyway. So there's no reason to pause and to hold off. Jump on the SAP Cloud ALM train. Get it today and enjoy SAP Cloud ALM.